Welcome back.
I'm always scratching myself now. I've become aware of it since I've got the camera on me. And that's probably why I'm doing it, but I really don't have fleas or anything. Um, it's Purana Talk with
Hi,
me and him. We're the Purana guys.
John, Alan.
Chapter 160 of the Garuda Purana, Part 1, Skanda 1. I guess it's a Skanda. We called them Skandas in the last Purana, and this time they're not calling them anything. Uh, Chapter 160, Diseases. Dhanvantari said, I shall now describe the pathology of Vidridi. Erysipelas,
All right.
not syphilis.
Spell it for me? Vidridi.
Oh, Vidridi is Vidradhi. Vidridi.
And then they're saying in English, this is what?
Well, erysipelas, of course.
Well, what is that?
Erysipelas. Well, maybe we'll find out through the context, because we come not as experts but as students among you here. So we'll find out. In the meantime, feel free to Google it. Erysipelas, Erysipelas, and gulma, which of course is intumescence, edema. Intumescence. It's like tumescence with an N in front of it. Gulma, Gulma in the Sanskrit.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to read the whole first sentence again. It takes a while to just get over the first sentence, and then we get going here. I shall now describe the pathology of Vidridi and Gulma. Please listen, O Sushruta. If stale or very hot, dry, coarse, and parchifying foodstuffs are taken, or if abnormal activities are indulged in, if hard and uneven beds are used, the blood becomes vitiated. Then it vitiates the skin, flesh, fat, and bones, and takes refuge in the abdominal cavity and produces intumescence inside and outside the body. It gives excruciating pain. It may be elongated or circular in shape. This is called Vidridi. Any
Still
clue?
don't have any idea
I know.
what we're talking about.
I know. It's like, well, we'll keep going. For the doshas, either severally or in combination, produce on the surface of the body, on the different limbs, knotty intumescences due to exuded contaminated blood. Fibromyalgia.
I don't know.
5. Inside, they are in the form of inflammations, very terrible, deep-seated and exuding. They grow like anthills. They impair digestion. They usually occur in the umbilical region, urinary bladder, liver, spleen, lungs, heart, abdomen, and the thigh joints. When there is palpitation of the heart, they give excruciating pain.
Are they talking about arthritis, maybe?
Yeah,
Like inflammation?
Well, they're certainly talking about some inflammation in the torso, lower part of the torso, and into as low as the hips.
But in the joints.
But, it talks about knotty, Knotty, intumescences.
Well, some people
and
get
shapes of
knobs
things.
and things like that.
I know, that's
from
what made me
arthritis.
think, yeah, this is true. Okay.
Anyway, okay.
7. At the time of incubation, it is black in color. And at the time of ripening or suppuration, it becomes red. It is irregular information.
It certainly is.
It brings in loss of consciousness, vertigo, constipation, suppression of urine, and noisiness in movement. 8. In the Pitta type, it is red, copper-colored, or black, producing thirst, fainting, fever, and burning sensations. I'm just not sure what it is that is all these different colors. They grow like anthills. I don't
I
know.
haven't figured out what they're describing.
In the Pittaja type, it is red colored. It is red, copper colored, or black, producing thirst, fainting, fever, and burning sensation. In the Kapaja type, it quickly incubates and suppurates, a little grayish in color. It gives an itching sensation, shivering, chilliness to touch, numbness to the affected part, yawning, non-relish for food, and heaviness are the symptoms. The Sanipataja type is slow in growth and does not suppurate. It is irregular in formation. Looseness of the bowels is the common characteristic of both the external and the internal vidridi. It assumes a black color, surrounded by blisters, and is attended with an intolerable burning pain and fever. Black colored bowel movement, blistery butt. What? Is that it? And fever? I don't know what happened, but it's not good. 11. I mean, this is like, it rules out the theories. Arthritis? That doesn't sound like arthritis at the moment.
No, it sounds like...
I don't know what it sounds like. 11. The
You're
external...
bleeding from the intestine.
The external abscess... Yeah, well, it sounds like internal bleeding if it's black stool. The external abscess due to contaminated blood is a sign of pitta. Such abscess in the internal regions is peculiar to women. Okay,
so they're describing some sort of
cystitis,
like cystic fibrosis or something like that, or cystitis. Or...
There's another vidridi due to wounds with a weapon or hitting with something.
Where it says women are the victim.
Verse
11?
Yeah, 11. Such abscess in the internal regions is peculiar to women.
So at least that kind.
Yeah. And it may still be referring to Sanipata, which I think is equal doshic influence. Okay. The blood originating and also by wounds, it said. 12. The blood originating from the wound is tossed by the vayu, and it aggravates pitta and produces a vidridi of grave disorders, exhibiting the symptoms of both pitta and contaminated blood. Could it be infection?
Yeah, that sounds like blood poisoning.
13. Difference in the disorder is due to the difference in the seat of the abscess. If puffing up is the disorder in an abscess in the umbilical region, that in the bladder is strangury. 14. An abscess in the spleen will cause difficulty in inhaling and exhaling with excessive thirst. So it's talking about, these infections that are localized in the body in different places from various causes.
And so I think what we're really looking at is swelling.
Edema, yeah. Well, this is the intumescence.
I think swelling is what the overall category is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all the things that cause it: arthritis, wound, infection,
14. An abscess in the spleen will cause difficulty in inhaling and exhaling, and excessive thirst. It'll be like a stitch in your side when you try to breathe deeply. An abscess in the lungs produces constriction in the throat. An abscess in the heart produces pain all over the body. An abscess in the abdomen or its side produces loss of sense. Tamaka shvasa, a peculiar dyspnea and digging pain in the heart. If there is an abscess in the thigh joints, internally or externally, or in the hips or on the back, the pain will be in the sides and the wind will be obstructed at the rectum. 17. The state of incubation, that of ripening and that of fully ripened tumor in the inside, are to be known as very like those of any swelling. An internal abscess occurring above the umbilical region sends out the exudation after suppuration through the mouth, and the others through the anus. In vidridi formation in rectum, mouth, or umbilical region, the dosha can be known from its suppuration. A sanipataja vidridi shows alteration from its seat. The viridhi in the umbilical region or in the urinary bladder, externally or internally, when ripe, bursts. That which is fully grown suppurates, but underdeveloped is infested with disorders. Sinful, wicked women suffer from internal abscesses when the child in the womb dies, and inflammation occurs there, very thick. I sort of dislike the way that. That was.
Yeah, I don't like blaming.
That was
the victim
offensive.
in quite that way.
Sinful, wicked women suffer from internal abscesses when the child in the womb dies, and inflammation occurs there, very thick. 20. That was 20. 21. An abscess on the breasts of women has all the characteristics of an external abscess. The blood in women is very subtle, hence small girls do not suffer from internal abscesses. 22-23, an aggravated but obstructed vayu in its path generally causes swellings from the region between the scrotum and the thigh joints. It reaches the nerves vessel, passing beyond the testicles, and oppresses it. Thus, it causes its swelling and the vitiation of the fat in the locality. It is called vridhi, hydrocella in Latinized English, Langlish. It is of 7 types.
What is of 7 types?
Well, let's just read that little section again. It was sort of, you get to say scrotum and testicles. An aggravated and obstructed vayu in its path generally causes swellings from the region between the scrotum and the thigh joints. It reaches the nerve vessel, passing beyond the testicles, and oppresses it.
Swollen prostate.
Thus it causes its swelling and a vitiation of the fat in the locality. It is called vridhi. It is of 7 types. 24. Due to the affliction of vayu, in the case of vridhi, whether external or internal, there is excessive micturition. Excuse me. Peeing. Yeah. It's not a term I use a lot.
No, I learned it in herbology.
Micturition. Yeah, it's one of those old-fashioned herbology. There's a lot of words you say instead of the words that we would naturally say.
What verse is that one?
24. All right. Due to the affliction of vayu, in the case of vridhi, whether external or internal, there is excessive micturition. The swelling becomes inflated, parched, and rough to the touch, accompanied by a burning sensation. 25. Due to the affliction of pitta, the swelling resembles a ripe udumbara fruit, Ficus indica, the Indian fig, attended with heat, burning sensation, and suppuration. Due to the affliction of kapha, the swelling is heavy, glossy, and slightly painful. It produces an itching sensation. Due to the affliction of contaminated blood, the swelling becomes compact, dark in color, and covered with bulbous eruptions on its surface. All the symptoms of pitta vridhi are present. Due to the action of fat defiled by kapha, the vridhi is soft and rounded like a palm fruit. This ailment is called mutraja vridhi, so born of mutra, as the patient habitually suppresses the passage of urine. There are no hair on the swelling. It is soft and quiet, but is disturbed on movement. Plunging into chill water and taking in foodstuffs aggravating the vayu produces strangury and ring-like markings beneath the scrotum. Suppression of feces and passage of urine and abnormal activities of the limbs causes the aggravation of the vayu that affects the virility of the patient and takes the blood downwards. This causes knotty swellings on the thigh joints. 31. Neglected at the outset, this vridhi turns into gulma, enlarged spleen, etc. I like the enlarged spleen, not the etc. part, like why etc. Okay. And produces in its wake the many disorders like distension, etc. Firmly pressed, it goes in with a sound, but comes out swelling again. I pointed out I pointed out to Leon that in Hindi and in Sanskrit to some extent, you can't just blame the translator for putting etc. in because it gets used, especially when it's a kind of an object of common knowledge or tradition. You don't want to name all of the fill in the blank, the 10 avatars of Vishnu. So you name the first one and go etc. and something. So often this just suggests to us we should know more than we do when we're reading it. Because you should know what the etc. is. Sometimes I think it's just unnecessary. Enlarged spleen, etc. All right, neglected at the outset, this vriddhi turns into gulma, enlarged spleen, and produces in its wake many disorders like distensions. Firmly pressed, it goes in with a sound, but comes out swelling again. Ow. 32. The rukta vriddhi, or blood vriddhi, really, is incurable. Vata vriddhi continues in the same size with a network of coarse blue and red veins like a window covered with a woolen net. There are 7 types of vriddhi due to the doshas severally and combined in diverse ways, and the 8th one happens in women due to the contamination of menstrual blood.
Yeah, well, we know about how many cultures think this way. There probably are reasons, but, you know.
Well, I don't know if it's talking about contamination. Well, I don't know, menstrual blood's on its way out, so what, it's the, the relationship between contamination and whether you can contaminate other people is this thing,
right. You run into it in many cultures. But it's something about the menses that
it's strange.
Some people think is icky. But, it's like, okay. It's a natural thing.
Yeah,
it happens to everybody.
You want to be a little bit critical, obviously, in reading this stuff, because there are places where it seems to be, where women's health in particular is like objectifying certain kinds of behavior, telling you that this is, in a sense, punishment. But at other times, it's trying to be just scientific. So, you want to make sure you're not misunderstanding it if it's talking about a certain kind of poisoning or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which it could be. It could be toxic shock syndrome.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Rather than just saying, women icky, though, it's obviously more complicated than that. But it seems to be a male-centric thing to some extent.
Yeah. They're not afraid to blame the physiology, and they're not always right.
Okay, let's. 34.
There, I think.
34. Fever, dysentery, fainting, vomiting, chillness, and hunger make even a stronger man emaciated. 35. The patient who takes boiled rice and drinks too much, or fasts, or takes bath is soon overwhelmed with fits of fainting. 36. Without resorting to emollient or diaphoretic measures, drying up measures shall be used, or those measures provoking free flow of blood shall be used, whether the patient is free from defiled doshas or not. So there's some actual treatment advice. 37, 38. In the case of the Vataja Vidridi, the wind and the defiled matter can be eliminated separately or collectively. The Vayu mixed with blood passing through the ducts obstructs their upward or downward passage and produces pain. The swelling gulma can be felt by the hand in a knotty globular shape. It feels a little hot. The Vayu lodged in the abdomen becomes hard and coarse due to fasting or obstruction to the passage by kapha and waste matter. The aggravated Vayu, continuing in its own locations, acts independently while located in the seat of any other dosha. It is dependent on that dosha. The consolidated lump of kapha in combination with dirt occupying the bladder, umbilical region, thoracic cavity, and sides is called gulma. Again, which before was explained as enlarged spleen, etc. So I guess this explains more of the etc.
Right.
In the Vataja type of gulma, headache, fever, inflammation of the spleen, rumbling sound in the entrails, a prickling pain in the limbs, loose motions, and difficult, painful urination are the symptoms. 42. There is swelling, stota or anasarja, shota or anasarja in the limbs, mouth, or in the feet, swelling. Impaired gastric functions, parchedness and black color of the skin, etc., due to the fickleness of vayu. Like a blind man groping about, rolling his eyeballs without realizing the place where he is, the gulma rolls about as if a number of ants have covered it. Ants again. It throbs. Due to pitta, burning sensation is felt. There are acid eructations, epileptic fits, loose motions, sweaty thirst, chlorosis, which it says in Sanskrit is haridriya, and swellings all over the body. The deranged kapha is aggravated or diminishes and scorches its seat. There is rigidity due to, boy, that's like edited. There is rigidity due to kapha, non-relish for food, a feeling of exhaustion, heaviness of head, and fever. Obesity, lassitude, disquietude, whiteness or blackness of skin, etc. are observed. And obviously not so literally, one assumes that, it's like us saying he had an ashen look or he was wan, it's like pale or dark.
It could be a pigmentation disorder.
Could be a pigmentation, but it talks about these things so often that it seems to me it's really sort of an impression of, you're looking rather dark today,
Right.
Anyway, but where was I?
46, I think.
Oh, yes. The swelling becomes hard and fixed, and the patient has steady sleep for a short while. Inflammations caused by two doshas in combination affecting their own respective seats and exhibiting their own symptoms prove fatal. Rukta gulma says now ovarian tumor. And this rukta is like blood, or so rukta gulma. So this is enlarged spleen, etc. There's another etc. It's really an ovarian.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of things that can cause you to swell up in the abdomen.
Yeah.
That's what they're really talking about.
Rukta gulma, found only in women, is caused by all doshas and exhibits severe pain and burning sensation. It suppurates quickly. It is hard and raised and is incurable. If a woman suffering from uterine trouble exposes herself to gusts of wind during her menstrual period, the vayu principle gets aggravated. Stay out of the wind when you're menstruating. There's this advice for women because it will aggravate your vayu principle, which is the wind. 50. It obstructs the passage of menstrual flow of blood, which collecting in the abdominal cavity produces symptoms of pregnancy. False pregnancy. 51. Disquietude, milk in the breasts, craving, desire for various foodstuffs, etc., as in pregnancy, and waywardness are also seen. In combination with vayu, pitta accumulates in the vaginal passage. The blood is too collected there. All the symptoms of vataja and pittaja gulmas are observed. In the womb, the seat of blood there is acute pain. There is vaginal discharge with fetid smell and lencoria with pain. That's one of the orias that I hadn't heard of. There's vaginal discharge with fetid smell and lencoria with pain. Lencorrhhoea. If you want to look it up. Enlarged spleen also appears like pregnancy sometimes. All these are due to unnatural desire for sexual intercourse. There's the judgment. Just when you think you're getting into a good section on, women's health or whatever, But you know, it applies these principles to men and women both. That not doing it most of the time is a good thing, but sometimes doing it's a good thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the Kama Sutra and other light classics and Krishna's dalliance in the woods with gopis and so many other.
Go on.
All right,
They
let's finish this. It suppurates slowly, and the viridi does not grow again. If that is contaminated with impure blood, it suppurates quickly. 55. Since it gives a burning sensation quickly, it is called viridi. If a gulma occurs on another gulma, there is burning sensation and pain in the spleen. Digestion is impaired, color of complexion is faded, and strength diminishes. The natural urges are suppressed. If the previous symptoms are not present, the symptoms of an external abscess are present. There is not much pain in the viscera or the limbs. Pallor, cough, bulging out of the abdomen, rumbling sound in the abdomen with excruciating pain and distensions are also present. The wind is obstructed above and below. It is called anaha. If there is the outcome of thick seed-like thing with knotty grips, it is called ashtila. When the vayu originating from the stomach gives rise to an excruciating pain and all the symptoms too are present, is called pratyashtila. Profuse eructation, suppression of feces, insatiation, rumbling around in the entrails, severe distension, inability to digest, etc., are the symptoms of an imminent gulma. And on that note, we conclude chapter 160 of the Garuda Purana. Quite unlike any other Purana I've read. This is a manual of medical science, all opinion. Did you get much out of that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think it was really sort of exploring different symptomology of things that swell up. And
in the abdomen especially,
well,
like from the heart to the hips.
It was really talking about joints in general.
Well,
at the beginning,
was it?
It seemed to be describing arthritis. Then it went to the body, and it started talking about different kinds of cysts you might get in different places, and it was talking about how those swole up and felt different and looked different. They seemed to be talking about bruising and things like that at one point when they were talking about the different colors.
Yeah, that would explain some of the livid.
You know, it might, and you know how things will swell up if you get injured, but if something hits you.
Yeah, they talked about wounds.
And then they talked about wounds and infection and things that swell up in that way. And then they went to internal organs, like especially around the abdomen and the intestines. Talked about swellings, growths, children that die in the womb, things like that. So they, again, things that
was that one reference that the one.
Yeah, well, there were
reference that
a bunch of things like that, though. They talked about, you know, things that swell up, it seems. So I think swelling is our category this time. It's interesting.
Almost a half an hour here. I think we need to let these poor people go to bed or whatever they do next.
Thanks. It was interesting.
As always.